Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations.
And so, Alane, it was February of this year where we did an episode of Make versus Zapier.
Mm.
It is now the beginning of June. Has not been very long since we did that episode. And we need to introduce our listeners to a new platform called N8N. It's the letter N, the number 8, the letter N. Not my favorite name to say over audio or Zoom or
Nobody
anything
ever they're always like,
because
"What did you just say?" N8N.
yes, the
N8N.
what? However, naming aside, it is an amazing platform. It would compete with Zapier, it would compete with Make. It is a little bit a league of its own because it's again just like Make, our opinion took some of the best things of Zapier, made it better, made it easier to work with, made it more visual, all of that kind of stuff. N8N takes this to the next level. We're getting the best parts of Zapier, we're getting the best parts of Make. This is actually open sourced, so you can self-host this technology. That of course requires some advanced knowledge, but it also is cloud hosted just like Make and Zapier. What makes it N8? I can't even say it, Alane. What makes N8N stand apart is that there's kind of a few different things. One, routing or being able to build more advanced automations is right at the tips of your fingers, more capable than the other two. So that's a huge piece. Two, there's a code block, which Zapier has a code block. It's a little cumbersome. This is a code block that can use JavaScript or Python. What makes this so important is the third standout thing with N8N is that they've been a leader in the game for building AI agents. And so we've shifted a bunch of our production to N8N for these reasons. And what that means is we can build more advanced automations. We can write code that takes complex data and simplifies it down. And then we can send that simplified structured data to an AI agent. I know that sounds technical and confusing, but there is immense power in that.
So, whenever because I'm not a technical person. And so, what I like when I look at an N8N sequence is it's so clean and you can see where the AI agent is operating, what access it has. In our previous episode, we were talking about having access to company information. So, an AI agent, you can see where it has ability to access that information, whether it's in a Google Drive or SharePoint or something like that. But then also, hey, if it's not there, then you can also incorporate where it's finding things through other AI like OpenAI or Anthropic or something like that, where it's able to pull too. And for a non technical person, you're still able to understand what is happening if you need to.
I think that's interesting you bring this up, Elaine. I wasn't even going down this path at all in my mind about it, but you're absolutely right. One of the things that I know when we first started prototyping stuff in N8N, I would, they have a note capability. And so you can almost like frame
Mhm.
sections of the workflow in the notes with headers and descriptions and lists. So anybody technical, non technical, can look at this, it's color coded, and go, oh, that's what this part of the workflow does. That's what this agent does. That's what that agent does.
And why I think it's so helpful when you're looking at that, if you are the decision maker bringing a technology like this in and it's a black hole to you, then it's harder to understand, well, what could I have an AI agent do? What is an AI agent? I know when AI agents first came about, and this was last at the end of last year, and I was joining some webinars to learn about it. And I was actually coming to you like, Micah, we've got to learn what this AI agent stuff is. And it was so people had a hard time articulating it. I was doing these webinars. I'm like, they're just not really explaining what it is and how it works. And for a non-technical person to watch that and go, I don't see where we can use this. It wasn't until we started building it internally and I could see, oh, an AI agent is like almost like a person sitting right there, and it's going to access the docs here, and it's going to have access to AI, and then it's going to output this way, and we can put a chat bot on top of it, so an interface, so it can chat with it. Then I'm like, okay, now I got it. Now I understand 100 different ways we could implement this in our company right now, and that's why I think it's great for non-technical people to view this so that it's not a black hole. They have an understanding. They don't need to go and build it themselves. I'm not going into N8N and building anything
I
yet.
wouldn't recommend it.
No. I'll go into Zapier and Make and dabble, but I'm not doing anything too complex. But I can now understand how it works enough to say, this is what I need, team. This is the access that I have. This is a Google Drive folder with these assets in. Can you go build this for me? And that I think is a key piece of this when you are in the leadership position saying, I want these things and need to be able to know, well, what's possible?
I think so. Let me frame what you just said, and I think I'm having a bit of an epiphany on why why we wanted to record this episode. First of all, and even say like we're not being paid by N8N. N8N doesn't even know probably who the hell we are, but
Yet,
not until
not
this
after this
episode drops.
episode.
But essentially what you're saying, Elaine, and what I'm saying is it has all the technical capabilities to build whatever we want, but it has an interface that allows the non-technical side of the business to not make it a black box or a black hole. It can be visible, clear, and understood on both sides.
Mhm.
Geez, gonna toss my whole glasses off here. But it can be understood on both sides of the company, the technical and the development side, and the leadership, non technical side that needs to understand what's going on, how does this work? And most importantly, how do we take this technology and where does it apply to the rest of the business? Because just think back on all the development conversations that we've ever had with any developer in our entire careers. And I think the people listening can probably relate to pieces of this, which is I want to do X. You're going to get two types of developers. No way, that's too hard, or 100% we can do that. And it doesn't matter which direction you go, it's still a shit show the entire time you're developing this out.
Mhm.
And then the only output is either an interface that makes sense after a ton of work, but no non developer is going to look at code and go, yeah, I think that's exactly what we need. That's perfect. Yeah, I know how to apply this code to other parts of the business. Like it just doesn't
No,
happen.
I don't know how to read Python. I don't know how to read JavaScript. Those and
It
the other
creates
side of
that
this,
disconnect.
yeah, exactly. But I can understand what that N8N workflow is doing. And I actually put that in my speaking engagements because I want to empower people to understand that you just need to have the knowledge of what's available so you know what to do to implement. That doesn't mean you implement. I don't
Yes,
need to be the one to go and do these things, but you know what's capable so you can go to the people that do know how to do it and say, I want this end result. I have these assets. Because if you say, I'd like for a chatbot to access my FAQ docs and be able to answer it, okay, great. Where do you have those? Well, I have them in 85 different places. Okay, if you understand how an AI agent works, then I need these all in a place. So the AI agent knows where to go. So even these like small little things by just seeing what it looks like helps you develop what do I need to gather? What do I need to do so that it can get clean and done by an AI
absolutely.
agent?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is not where I expected this episode to go, but I think this is such a super important one. Just let's bring attention to a new technology that will help people listening
Mhm.
to this podcast episode, of course. Two, this whole recognition that the game's changed, that non tech roles can look at this and go, I understand it.
Mhm.
When has that ever happened? Never in the past. And so this is super super interesting because we're also I would say this crosses over with the non-tech understanding of using AI in general, just
Mhm.
chatting with Claude, chatting with ChatGPT, getting answers, brainstorming ideas, taking a bunch of emails and documents and shoving it into a project and then having a chat with it. fine. Let CEOs do this. Let VPs do this. Let's get this out. And then we got to get back to the systemization piece of this, which is what we're talking about with N8N.
Mhm.
The way that I look at N8N is when AI came out, mainstream came out 3 years ago, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna just use it to automate my business," and it just really wasn't there as a technology, and using N8N, we can't necessarily automate everything in your business, but it gets a whole lot closer, especially with merging what documents you already have with also supplementing with what's available in AI. And you are able to do a lot more. I remember chatbots. Can I have a chatbot answer questions? Well, what do you have documentation for? That's still a key piece. You still need to
It
have the
is.
documentation there. But yes, we can do that. And that is a really simple workflow to build where the AI agent can access those things.
So, this is going to get a little technical, but just as an example, in N8N, we can create one workflow that analyzes an entire Google Drive set of documents. It will automatically create embeddings, which is basically chunks of the data from these documents, and it will save it to a vector database, which is a database type that AI agents can access. At that point, you have a workflow that you can just point at a folder in Google Drive and go, "Hey, save all this to a vector database."
Mhm.
Then you can build an AI agent, an N8N, that goes, "Hey, what's in this vector database?" I can query it and I can answer questions, whether I'm part of a workflow that's running every day or coming from a chat interface. It doesn't matter. Whatever the trigger is, it goes to the agent. That agent goes to the database, pulls the information it needs, and starts taking action, which
Mhm.
can then lead to other actions. So I want to I know I'm not giving you a break to talk or
You're
reply
fine,
to that
Micah.
right
Go
now,
ahead.
but I think there's this thread here that just popped into my mind of there's this whole like maybe a misnomer I would say of wow, look at all the stuff we can do chatting with ChatGPT or Claude. If we imagine that's happening across a 20 or 30 person team, we're back to the world of mayhem. Everybody's doing different prompts. Everybody's saving documents, saving projects differently. Even if you have a team account, it's craziness.
Mhm.
The world of standardization, systemization, and streamlining operations in the AI age is N8N building simple workflows that do the same thing over and over and over predictably so that the systems can operate and help run the business and structure and streamline the business that way that the teams then leverage.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out that where you mentioned like JavaScript and Python, where we can have these languages in there as well, or these coding blocks, that this is very much is still a very technical thing for building powerful AI agents. I hear a lot like, "Oh, I created
Yes.
N8N and I created agents." I'm like, "Oh, do you code?" No. Well, that's great. You can play around, but you're really at a superficial level of what an AI agent is capable of. And you want to have a developer that understands vector databases. I mean, Micah, if you ask me to build a vector database, I don't even know what you're talking about. And you throw that term around all the time at the office, like, oh, we need a vector database. Great. Go do that. Whatever that might be. But there's these things where we are talking about a database, and a database can look different. It could be a Google Drive folder, but it could also be an Airtable, like a spreadsheet kind of thing. So where it's pulling data from can look different, and a developer understands those types of databases, what needs to be there to pull things
Yeah.
from. And so
Yeah.
if you really want a powerful N8N AI agent sequence, then you do want to have a developer. The other side of this, Micah, and I wanted you to talk to it, is that there's so much training that needs to be involved for building an N8N because it is such a new technology. Developers are used to building old school, and there's sometimes a gap between N8N and
Yes.
old
So
development ways.
Man, way to bring up a topic, Elaine. This is super interesting because, this was one of the struggles that we've had is as we scale, who do we hire to help build these so that we can train them to help build these for our clients? And at first, it was like, oh, let's get people operationally minded because they're building systems. And I think that works to a degree with Zapier and Asana ClickUp and Monday, and even a little bit into Make. It does not work as we're entering in this new era. What you were just talking about with the technology choices and vector databases really comes down to optimization and knowledge of techniques.
Mhm.
So, do we have an AI that can summarize SOPs and save it as an index in an Airtable base? Is that the right direction we should go?
Mhm.
Do we just give them a Google Drive folder? Do we need to save everything to a vector database? Do we need code that takes an API call response and narrows it down into structured data and simplifies everything so that the AI agent gets exactly what it needs versus giving all of that data to the AI agent and having it sorted out? There is huge differences, not only in cost,
Mhm.
time, efficiency, and end result predictability, that all of that comes into play. So then getting back to who does this, we've actually found that hiring people with more of a development technical background for this provides the best results with one caveat. Up until N8N and AI agents became mainstream this year, every bit of development known to man was logic based. If or then, do this, do that, switch statements, for loops, all the logic operators that we have within programming. That's out the window for AI agents. So, one of the big training elements that we see as such a big issue is that people with a strong development background come in and they try to write the logic.
Mm.
They try to recreate the logic as if they were programming in code, even outside of just visually in tools like N8N and Make, when the reality is the agent can handle all of that. It can handle the logic if you build it correctly. So now we've got these two sides of the spectrum where it's like, are we relying on the agent too much or are we relying on the agent too little? This is where having somebody that knows what they're doing is of the utmost importance to get this stuff done correctly for your business.
Yeah, and, whenever I'm talking to companies or speaking engagement, I really focus on this as a piece of it because you have to train, and it is a different way for a developer to think, and they aren't coming out of the box knowing that, even if they've worked in development for 20 years, that so what we're looking for is an eagerness to learn, that they're excited about the new technology, and that they are adaptable. Because if you can't adapt, then you're gonna keep trying to do it the old way. And so if you're an organization looking to start building N8N workflows, then you need to be working with a technical person that is training themselves if you're trying to do it yourself. Because we're constantly training. We're constantly doing knowledge shares because this is what we do. So we've got all kinds of use cases and examples and
Templates.
templates and just training video. Like when we hire a new person, they go through a whole training on this. And then we do weekly training to continue cultivating this not thirst for knowledge because it is changing and we do need to stay up to date.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this episode that I would say, Elaine, is check out N8N. Can you make stuff in N8N? Yes, you probably can. I'm still not going to pronounce that correctly as I'm trying to say it fast. N8N. But are you going to be paying extra? Is it performing the way you want? Are you going to get frustrated? Are you going to spend too much time piddling around with this stuff? Like anything in business, if you have somebody that knows what they're doing, it's going to work faster. You need to stay focused on your business. Whether you're trying to do it yourself, there is a learning curve. It's worth it. Or if you want to stay focused on your business, hire a team, that knows what they're doing.
And Micah and I have a new mastermind coming out where we are talking about these concepts where we're helping owners stay on top of this technology. So if you're interested, shoot us a note.